fact, have found your birth mom.
Yes.
Okay, so take us all on this journey.
I was left in the hospital, not by choice, but by my mom at the time was not able to keep me due to family decisions. And so I was left in a unwed hospital until I was 6 months, and I finally got adopted by my adopted parents. I think it was basically, I want to say like a Catholic hospital or hospital of nuns, that they basically parents, mothers that were not able to keep their children, and so they were on their way for orphanage after 12 months, and then they are designated as an orphanage.
I got it.
So I almost made it to orphanage stage.
Oh my goodness.
So from there, grew up. My adopted parents told us from when we were old enough to understand that we were adopted. My parents actually had adopted 3 other children. So we were all adjusted quickly because we were adopted so young, and grew up knew that we were adopted. Going forward, always wanted to know who my birth parents were. You get the questions like, wow, you're so tall, do you take that after your mother or your father? And it's ironic that my father was actually tall, so they thought that I took it after him.
Right. They just assumed.
Yeah, they just assumed. And actually, when you become adopted, you kind of almost look like them. You know what I mean? You have the same resemblance. And so the people that didn't know my family, we just kind of blended so nicely.
Yeah.
That,
especially if you're the same race, I do have to say
that's
that.
right. Yeah.
My situation is a little different in that my adopted family is white.
Forward, I always wanted to know what they, who my parents were. After graduation, especially after graduation, my adopted mom actually encouraged, she thought that everyone should know who your family is, who's your background, what's your background. I first attempted to try. The judge had you had to send a message to the judge, because back in those days, parents sometimes put a letter in your record saying that you can or cannot find them, or they might have like some type of record of your health records or anything like that. And so I wrote the judge to ask them if they would open my case back up, because once you get adopted, your case is closed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so my case was closed. Write the judge, explained, that I was adopted, would like my case open. And the judge wrote back and said that he needed more information. Well, the information that they were looking for at the time, my adopted parents did not have it. At the time that they had got me, the only thing they didn't know what time I was born. They knew the date of it, but they didn't know if my mom had complications. They didn't know anything regarding
the background story.
Regarding my biological parents. Yes.
Okay.
So going forward for that, just kind of gave up hope, because there's nothing more that I can give you. I don't even have a name. I don't have anything to get back to the judge and say, this is it. So because my adopted family, they actually had to name me. Probably back in 2018, I had a friend that encouraged me, Debbie, you really need to find your birth parents. She was talking about her family tree and how it's important really that we all at least attempt to find our biological family. And I remember,
if not for health reasons.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was having my daughter and I had toxemia and I was swelling up, and the doctors and nurses was asking me, is this in my family? I have no idea. And some things, because I work in the health field, and I know some things are hereditary.
Sure.
But anyway, so she had encouraged me to find my family. And so I go back on this website that I had periodically went on, adoption.com, to see if that they had looked for me or anything like that, or she's trying to find me. And there's always an emptiness there.
Okay.
There's a void. There's like, you can have the finest appearance, you can have the finest life, but truth be told, there's always like a little void inside of you that
you're always wondering.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm looking in the mirror. Do I look like my mom? Do I look like my dad? Who do I look like?
Yeah.
And so anyway, on this website, I didn't see anything. But the interesting thing that Denise that I came across is like they have all these conversations. Well, it's just interesting because they actually put like I'm looking for a black female. She was born in Pittsburgh. Like they put they give or maybe my mom. She was they give names and she was taken away from like either from foster care or anything like that. So they put these messages out there. And so reading some of the conversations, the dialogue between people, through this conversation that I was reading, I came across some interesting facts that if you were adopted, that you have a legal right to your birth certificate. You have a legal right to see your birth certificate at
the birth.
Your original birth certificate.
Yes.
And I was like, wow. So when I looked it up and found out, if you're out there, you're paying $1,600. I paid $20
to get your birth certificate.
To get my birth certificate and find my biological family. And some people do. You have to, maybe, it's not that simple. Now, had my mom had not signed it, I would not be sitting here with you.
Okay.
That means that there was nothing that would link me to her name.
I see. I got you.
So that means that if she had not had signed it with her name, and I wouldn't have.
There would have been a journey.
Yes. And I found her at the age of 50. It was almost my 50th birthday.
I love this.
It was almost my 50th birthday.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, the healing that when I opened up the envelope with my birth certificate for 50 years, I didn't even know that I had a name because I was left in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't, because my adopted parents had to name me, I just thought, that she just abandoned me. She didn't name me. I was just like a throwaway baby,
Okay, yeah.
Healing that took place that I waited for 50 years took place in 5 minutes, and that was to see that she actually named me.
What did she name you?
Karen.
Karen! Does she look like a Karen to you guys? Debbie's spinning.
Yeah. So, but to come to find out that Karen was actually her middle name.
Okay, then we, forgive it.
At the time, I wanted to Google her name, and they had this little special on there. If you do this trial run, it's $1. So I paid $1 to find her.
So altogether, $21.
There you go.
Everything that you needed.
There you go. And Facebook.
Wow.
So by the time I met her, I knew I had 2 sisters. I knew where she lived. Google will tell you where they live.
Wow.
And come find out, she lived 15 minutes away from me.
My whole life.
She was 15 minutes outside of my hometown. And my parents, my adopted parents had got divorced. And so my dad was going to one church in our hometown. We were going to another.
Yeah.
But the church that my dad went to, they affiliated with her church. They used to go back and forth to each other's churches, the choirs and things like that. And it was like, wow.
That's amazing.
Yes.
All that time, she was right there.
She was right there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, what was the first reunion like?
The first reunion was so amazing. It was, so we met, by the way, I'm from the Pittsburgh area. So we went that, so we met in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And my sisters was there and she was there. And we met, and it was like we were all sitting around the table. I think it was Applebee's or something. It was something, family. And we were all sitting around the table just talking and ask, like they were showing me my nieces. And
what did it feel like? Did it feel like it clicked?
It felt like a family reunion.
Did you feel like family?
I did. And and the funny thing is that when we were leaving, sometimes, it's like, is it just me? Because, I'm just a people person. I love the connections. I love talking.
Sure.
I love dialoguing and stuff. And so my sister, right before we left, my sister had told me that, because it had snowed and I thought we was going to have to cancel. I left Florida, went to, what did that feel like? To me, it felt like, like a family reunion. It didn't feel like any missing. It was no time was there like an emptiness, like,
like awkward.
Yeah. It was no awkward, nothing. And then when we were leaving, my mom took me by the hand and she said, somebody asked me, they said, how do you feel? And she said, I feel like we were never apart. Oh my God!
That was not right, Debbie.
I was crying. I'm going to cry many times. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Denise.
Okay. Woo. All right. Teared up. Yeah.
And
that was beautiful. That's exactly what an adoptee wants to hear.
Yes. I mean, she was just like, and then, she told me that her parents had sent her away to have me, and she said that she was so depressed and, and everything because it wasn't a choice that she wanted to make.
Sure.
It wasn't her choice. And she said that the nurses at night used to let her hold me. And she said that she prayed over me and said, God, please watch over her. And I really,
and
he honored her prayer.
Yes.
And she said she didn't even know God at that time.
Wow.
She just prayed a simple prayer.
Don't mess with Mama's prayers.
There you
They're
go.
real.
They really
They're
are.
real.
They really are. And so she said that, that she's held me, and so like so many of my questions, so many of my turmoil inside, like, what was, why did she, was just like, but she loved me. She would have still had me, she still would have, raised me up, but.
Tell everybody what your relationship is like with her now.
I have such a great relationship with her. We talk on the phone at least a couple times a week. It's just like how she said, it was like we were never apart. She just wasn't there for when I was growing up, but she's there for me now. When I met her in 2019, my adopted mom had passed away in 2017. So it's like the Lord took my adopted mom, but I still have a mom. I still have, it's like now I have a mom. You know what I mean? And we laugh, we talk, we pray. She's just there. It's just
what
like,
you would want.
Yeah. It's just like if she had raised me. That's what it's like,
Now, what would you say to adoptees?
What I would say is that I would follow your heart, because if your heart is saying that I really want to find them, now there's so many more avenues. There's so many more options to find your parents. And then I would also say, you have to prepare yourself. Like I had to prepare myself if my mom didn't sign my birth certificate,
Sure.
what was that going to be like for me?
Yeah.
Was that going to
And
be
if-
another disappointment? Is that going
Yeah.
to be another, flop? But, the reason you have to understand your reason why. Why do I want to do this? Is it, you know what I mean? I did it out because of the love that I still, I would pray for her. I would still, when it's my birthday, that's the time that I would pray for her, like wherever she's at, like, because she might felt some type of way,
Yeah.
we don't think about that. We don't think about what that parent had to go through when they had to leave you in the hospital.
It's more self.
Yeah, we
Centered,
gravitate with us.
Yeah.
But what did she have to go through?
In that time, in the late 60s, early 70s, people, throughout the 70s, you didn't have the access, you didn't have the support from mothers getting pregnant.
That's
back then,
a shameful thing to get
pregnant. It was
pregnant.
extremely shameful.
You were thought of less than and all that. And so, just to hear how my mom, all this time I'm thinking about myself, like how I felt. But then when my mom was saying how she felt, she was depressed, she was crying.
She had a major loss.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Even before she literally had me, she went through a lot of changes, and first time being shipped from her family, being separated. So that trauma, so you have the trauma of you being separated from your family, you have this trauma of, and so there was a trauma there with our.
And let's talk about this racially. Back then, it was stereotypical. Black women having babies. Racially, there was a lot of tension in that time. And she had all of that on her shoulders. I just can't imagine going through that. But it speaks of her survival mode.
Yes. It
really speaks of strength. Yeah.
So as you're preparing to find your biological parents, remember, sometimes, people, I've heard of people are angry, and they're angry at, because you left me, and I'm not excusing that, but you don't know what that parent had to go through. You don't even know for me, I guess I'm thinking that even the love that you gave me up, how many kids, babies are murdered. I'm not talking about abortion. I'm talking about left, in a garbage can, abuse, So the fact that she thought it was, best for me, to just say, okay, let me just leave her here, So I would encourage you to, do what we did, find it, get support, if you have to go to counseling,
so
and
important.
all that, to get, clarity of mind before you start, before you actually start engaging into trying to find them, because it can be emotional.
It doesn't always
turn
out great.
Exactly, because you never know. Like you hear the horror stories, like they, like maybe they didn't tell. And I went through the same thing. Like when I found her name, her number, and all this, and I was like, oh God, what if she, they didn't tell her family about me? What if they don't know and I'm interrupting her family? Only thing I want to do is that, I'll tell you this, when I found her name and everything, and on Google, they actually give you her email.
Yes.
So I sent her an email and said, I don't want anything. I just want you to know that I'm okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know that was going to be a tearjerker.
That's just a trigger.
I'm sorry.
I'm okay. All right. Continue.
I said, I don't want anything.
You just said, I'm okay, Mom.
I just want you to know that I'm okay. I want you to know that I'm alive and I'm okay. I don't want anything. And the ironic thing, Denise, happened, right? So I get the nerve to call her.
Yeah.
And so she answers the phone and I freeze. And so she goes like, who is this? Because I called her by her maiden name. And she said, who is this? And I was like, check your email. I go, ma'am, I sent you a really important email. Please go check your email. And so I didn't want to tell her who I was.
Why?
Yeah, because
that would have stressed her out, no?
Yeah, because, just because of the fact of
you're protecting yourself,
not knowing where she's at, where the mindset is. Is this going to be rejection? Did she tell her family about me? A mutual friend called her for me.
Okay.
And she recognized the area code. And so she called him back, and they talked for over an hour. And they talked about me. They talked about mutual friends, because you remember, we're right close to my hometown that I grew up in. Right. Actually, it was around the holiday.
Okay.
And
not that many years ago.
No. And it was right around the holiday. It was right around Christmas time. And so when she came back, she called him and said, okay, I'm ready now. So it was it was a couple weeks. It was like maybe 2 weeks. And then she said, okay, yeah, I'm ready to call,
And I get that 100%.
Yeah, sure, because I knew more about her than she knew about me. Like, I already knew that she lived in Texas. I already knew that she, I could have walked on her doorstep and knocked on the door and said, hey, look, here I am. Her one picture of me when I was young that I will share of me. Yeah. And she said, who is this? She said, this looks just like me. I go, that's real. So people say that now that I'm older, that I look like my mom's mom.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. She got my son. And she says, he looks like my brother. And when I show you this picture,
you would think it's the same?
The same. Even my son was like, I said, Joe, do you remember this picture? He's like, no. He said, it looks like me. He said, but I don't remember this. I said, because it's not you.
Yeah.
That's how close.
It's my son.
My son didn't even. It's like, wow. It's very important. Family should be, the primary of our lives.
Whatever that means for a person, because family could mean.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean your bio family. It could be you, but there should be some sense of family. There should be some type of sense of family in your life. But sometimes we have missing grandparents. Sometimes it's just important. Your family.
Find your roots.
There you go.
It's important.
There you go.
We don't live that far away from each other.
Yes.
Just a little ways.
We spent 30 years away, and now coming now an hour